Again, it's a rich thing.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In today's video we're going to learn the basics of web scraping in Python, so let us get right into it. Alright, so web scraping is one of those things that you will encounter as a data scientist, as a programmer, as a machine learning enthusiast sooner or later. And this is because sometimes when you have to get some data, you can get it from datasets, from CSV files, from Excel files, from APIs, from libraries that you import. But oftentimes you're going to also have to just get the data on your own. It's out there in the web, but it's not there as a dataset. It's there as an HTML table, as a website with some information, and you need to get that data from that website. Now, before we get into any of the explanations of how to do that, I want to mention that you should inform yourself about the legality of web scraping. Now, web scraping is legal. It's not illegal, but depending on what you do with it and how you use it, you can run into problems. So before you do anything here, I'm not responsible for actions you take. Just inform yourself so that you know that you're doing something that is legal and you don't do anything stupid. Other than that, web scraping is perfectly fine. It's not considered illegal at all. Again, depends on what you do with it. So we're going to use a basic example site here that I have prepared, and you can use whatever site you want. I'm going to use webscraper.io. They have a test site where they have tables and they have other pieces of content. So in this case here, you can see when the page loads, we just have a table playground, which is prepared for web scraping. So this site is made for web scraping. And what we're going to do is we're going to just talk about the basics of web scraping. We're not going to do some fancy projects. I have one video on this channel, which is web scraping the S&P 500 data from Wikipedia. You can watch that video if you're interested in a practical application. But besides that, we're just going to talk about the very basics of how web scraping is done. And one way in which you can do it is by just downloading the HTML code and then filtering it using regular expressions or string functions. So what we can do is we can just say from URL lib import, or actually from URL lib.request import URL open. And now we can go ahead and say URL equals that URL that we have here. And the website that we have is URL open, or actually we can do it immediately like that. We can say HTML code equals URL open read decode UTF-8. So this is how you get the HTML code. We can see that this works. Actually, URL open URL. There you go. And we can go ahead and print the HTML code, and you're going to see that we get the code of the website. Now, the goal of web scraping is not just getting the website. As you can see here, we get the website. The goal is to extract specific information in a programmatical way. For example, we want to know all the last names in this table. So how can we do that? We can, I'm going to show you in a second how to do that efficiently. But basically, if you want to get something, for example, you want to see, you want to find some headings, what you can do is you can say, okay, start equals, and then we find the first heading. Let's say we're looking for H1, heading 1. So what we can do is we can say HTML code dot find. We're looking for an opening H1 tag, and we're going to say plus a length of the string itself. Because what we want to have is if we have an H1 tag that looks like that, hello world, what we want to find is the text in between. So we find the starting point, which is here, plus the length of that, so that we start reading from here up until this closing tag. This is what we're going to look for here. So we're going to say end equals HTML code dot find closing H1 tag, like that. And then we can just go ahead and say print HTML code from start to end. And of course, we can also save that into a string. As you can see, table playground. So here we have this H1, we can inspect it, and you can see H1 table playground. So we can do it like that. We can do that with images and with all other things that come to mind. We can also import the regular expressions module, so we can say import RE and we can do regular expressions. But there's a way more efficient way to do all of this without having to use string functions and regular expressions. And this is just using the library called BeautifulSoup 4. So we open up a command line, cmd, and we say pip install beautifulsoup 4. This is the library for web scraping. So if I run this now, you're going to see that I already have it installed. But this is what we're going to need. So what we do with BeautifulSoup is we can create a so-called soup object from the HTML code. So we can say, of course, first of all, we need to import it, and we're going to do it like that. We're going to say from BS4, which is BeautifulSoup 4, import BeautifulSoup. And now what we do is we say soup equals BeautifulSoup from HTML code. So we still need to get that using URL open or using requests, and then we paste that HTML code into the soup constructor. Now, once we have that, instead of using string functions, we can now use functions of the soup object. So for example, find all, and so on. And the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to find all the headings that are h2, so all headings 2. So we can say find all h2, and we're going to save that as a result. Well, let's call it headings 2, and then print headings 2, like that. And what do we have here? We have a warning, no parser. Oh, we need to specify a parser. So as a parser, you can specify something like html.parser if you want to, or lxml, which is something that maybe you have to install by saying pip install lxml. But I'm not sure if we have to do that, but I think yes. So this is just a parser that you specify. But besides that, we're going to see all the headings. So you can see semantically correct table with t-hat and t-body, table without t-hat tag, and so on. So those are these headings that we're extracting here. And now, of course, we can do that with all different things. So we can do that with images. We can say, okay, images equals soup.findAll img, because that's the image tag in HTML. And then we can do all sorts of things. We can say, okay, print all the images. But we can also, first of all, let's see if this works. But we can also go ahead and say, okay, give me from the second image, so index 1, I want to have the source. So like that. And then I will get the source. As you can see here, we use this as a dictionary. Or we can say, give me the alternative text as well. There you go, web scraper on Facebook. So this is how you can do that. Now let's see how we can process that table. In order to process a table, guess what? You need to look at the HTML code, and you can see, okay, a table, this table here has the tag table. We have a t-body, we have rows, we have t-head here, and we have table data down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to first get the table. Let's just get rid of all of that. We're going to say, okay, the first table is what we're going to look at. And in order to only get the first table, we can, of course, say find all and index 0, or we can just say soup.find table, and we're only going to get the first one. So once we have that, we're going to get all the rows from the table. So we're going to say first table. We're no longer targeting the soup object. We're saying first table dot find all table row. And what we now want to have is we want to exclude the headings. So we want to exclude, in this case, first name, last name, username. We don't want to have that row. We want to have those 3 rows here. In order to do that, what we do is we say start from index 1, like that. And now what we do is we say last names, which is what we were interested in. Last names equals an empty list. And now for row in rows, what we want to have is last names dot append row dot find all table data. And we don't want to have all the table data. We only want to have that with index 2, which is the third thing. We're not interested in the number. We're not interested in the first name. We want to have the last name. This is index 2. So we're just going to say 2. And then we can print last names. As you can see, we get the 3 last names. We get Otto, Thornton, and the Bird, which are the last names. Now, of course, we can now also remove these tags and so on, but that's not really necessary unless we want to. Now, of course, what we can do is we can, I think this should be possible with get text. We should be able to remove the text. Yeah, there you go. So by saying .get text, we get the content of the tag with the remove text, so we don't have the table data text anymore. All right, so now let's go ahead and do a little example. Let's say we don't want to use this test page here. Let's go to Firefox and look for Python Wikipedia. And there you go, Python programming language. And what we do have here is we have a page with a bunch of different information. So we have here some person in a picture with some text below it. And down here, we should have a table. There you go, typing, Python types, and we have types, the mutability of the type, the description, and some examples. Now, let's say we want to know, using web scraping, we want to find out, okay, what are the mutable types and what are the immutable types? Now, we can, of course, look that up, but let's say we want to extract that. We don't want to, make an Excel sheet and have to copy all of those or enter them manually. We want to use this table using Python to extract the information, to get a list of all the data types that are mutable and another list of all the data types that are immutable. So how can we do that? First of all, we need to right click and see, okay, what is this thing actually? So we can see this is a table with a class wiki table. So you can not only filter for tags, you can also filter for classes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to copy the URL. And we're going to go to PyCharm and we're going to replace this URL with the new Wikipedia URL. We're going to leave that part here. And here we're now going to find this particular table. Now, I think this is the first table on the page, the first wiki table on the page. So this shouldn't be too difficult. We're just going to use the find function. We're going to say type table equals soup.find, and here we're now going to say class underscore important because class is a Python keyword, class equals wiki table, like that. So this filters for class, not for tags. And we now get the first wiki table on the page. So what we now want to get is the body of that table, because as you saw, this table has a table body, and then it has rows, and then it has data inside of those rows. So what we want to do now is we want to say body equals type table dot find tBody, like that. And then we want to say rows equals body dot find all table rows, skipping the first one because that's again the headings. And then we do then we create two lists. We say mutable types equals empty list, and then immutable types equals an empty list. And now what we do is we just say for row in rows, and we can extract that data. So we can say, okay, the data of that particular row is just row.findAll table data. That's just the data. And now what we want to do is we want to say, okay, if the data 1, this is index 1, which means second column. If this thing here says mutable, then we're going to put it into the mutable list. And if it says immutable, we're going to put it into the immutable list. So if data1 equals, or actually if data1 get text equals mutable. Now it's important to know that here in this particular page, we have \n. We can also, of course, strip that from the right and so on if we want to, but we're just going to do it like that for now. So if you just compare from mutable, it's not going to work. You can try with in, but that would produce problems because immutable also has mutable inside of it. However, you just check if the text says mutable, And if that is the case, what we do is we say mutable types dot append data, but not data 1, but data 0. Because remember, in the first column, we have the type. In the second one, we have the mutability. So we have Boolean, byte array, bytes, and so on, immutable, mutable, immutable, and so on. Okay, so we're going to append data 0, but not data 0, but data 0 get text, because we don't want to have the tags. Otherwise, we're going to do the same thing for immutable. There you go. And now we can go ahead and just print mutable types, actually as an f string, mutable types. There you go. Immutable types. There you go. So if we now run this, you can see we get the mutable types byte array, dictionary, list, and set, and all these other types are immutable. And as we can see here, byte array is mutable, dictionary is mutable, list is mutable, and set is mutable. All the others are immutable. So we extracted that data from Wikipedia. Now what we can also do is we can do the same thing with the thumbnail here. So what we can do is we can right click, inspect, and we can see, okay, this is actually, I'm interested in this picture here. We have this thumb image, which is inside of image, which is inside of thumb inner, which is in thumb. Now, thumb, t-right are two different classes. So thumb is a class that we can look for. So what I can do is I can say, okay, thumb box equals, and then soup.find class underscore equals thumb, like that. And then what we can do is we can say, okay, thumb image source is thumbbox.find image, and I want to have the source of that image. And then I can just print it, for example. This is just one example. So if I run this, you can see I get the location, the source of the image. So last but not least, we're also going to extract the table of contents. So I'm just showing some examples here that you can see what we can do with that. For example, let's say I want to load the table of contents into my Python script. What I have to do is I have to right click, inspect. I see, okay, this is TOC title inside of TOC, table of contents. So, okay, that's what I'm looking for, class TOC. So what I can do is I can say TOC equals soup.find class TOC. There you go. And then TOC links, because we have inside of that table of content, come on. Inside of that table of content, we have the individual items, which are just little links here, little anchors. So all we need to do is we need to say TOC links equals TOC.find all A's. So all links. And then TOC text equals A.get text for A in TOC links. Or actually we could just take this and replace it here. There you go. And now print TOC text. And the result should be the table of contents. There you go. As you can see, we have all the individual subpoints. So that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.